Hey everyone, good morning. It's Vinod here from GrowWealth. It's time for the weekly watch list review for last week and new names for the forthcoming week. The watch list is reaching you a little bit late today because the market is on holiday today in US. It's President's Day on the 15th of February, so you don't have any US market there. Market opens tomorrow, so it's a short week. So hopefully you will have the time later today to review the charts and make a decision on whether you want to buy or how you use it for your learning purposes. You probably have seen my recent post about how the watch list are performing recently. So hopefully that gave you some confidence to take some productive steps going forward. Let's look at how the watch list has performed last week. So as you could see, we had quite a few stocks last week, and it had almost performed as much as the market, slightly underperformed by less than 0.1% compared to S&P 500. We had some winners, TXG and CDG, or good returns within a week, and we had some losers as well. But as a whole, I think we almost tried to match the market performance in 1 week. But the point I want to make here is don't discard the previous names on the watch list, because all the stocks that I bring to our list here are really great companies with tailwind and great chart performance, and many of them have good fundamentals as well. So keep it on your list. For example, API that we had in our watch list last week has returned 75% in 1 week previously, and then in this week it also gone up a little bit more, and overall it has returned 90% in 2 weeks. So if you got into one stock and it's performing really well, you can stay with that. Use a particular system to take partial profits, or have a stop loss that can be trailed based on the trend, either a T line or 50 EMA or the chart pattern, which you feel comfortable with. All right. So this is how our watch list has performed. We can go through the charts briefly as well. But prior to that, I will go through the names for the next week's watch list. And we have 5 from previous weeks: TDOC, PTO and Peloton, NIO, the electric vehicle manufacturer in China, DCBO, TXG, that's 10x Genomics, all 5 names from previous weeks, CRWD, that's the cybersecurity company, NIU, which is, I think it's another Chinese company, I believe. MPWR is a semiconductor company, and there's a news that there's deficiency, kind of shortage of semiconductors. MPWR is showing some good signs that it's breaking out more recently, whereas other stocks have been extended quite a bit lately. And LAZR, it's quite a violent moving stock, but it is setting up and moving up more recently. So let's look at some of the charts. Right, starting with the S&P 500. So you can see it's continuing his uptrend, nicely going up, a doji and a bullish candle to end the day, which is productive. This is NASDAQ. Let me move this around. And similar pattern in NASDAQ as well. If you look at the weekly chart, it's a bit extended in NASDAQ. And I believe the S&P 500 is similar as well, a little bit extended. Okay, so that's why we need to be nimble and cautious in how we trade this. If it's a bit too extended, then you'd want to take some partial profits and keep a close watch on how your stops or how your stocks are performing, so that you can adjust these stop losses accordingly. So let's look at the past week's charts, PGNY. That's the weekly chart. Let's go to daily. So on weekly, it's still positive. It gave a doji last week, but it's still above T line and at all-time high. So it's still a positive chart. On weekly as well, it's well above the initial stop loss that we have set, It broke about the green zone here where you could have bought, or about the T line as well. When it resumed its uptrend, it tried to come back to T line, acted as a support, and it's trying to go up. So use the price action and the stop loss accordingly. So you could, if you want to play it really tight, you can place the stop loss somewhere here below Wednesday, Thursday low. But this growth stocks can be, if you're in profit, then give a little bit of breathing space for the charts so that it fluctuates and then settles down before it moves up. So just stop loss accordingly. So this hasn't broken down at all, but it's still kind of continuing its uptrend. It's not in our next week watch list because I found some new setups, but the stock is continuing to act really well. DCBO. So let me adjust it here. Okay. So as you can see, this broke about this wedge pattern or the channel pattern, and it's trying to set up a bit of a base here before it goes up. So I put this kind of two markers here, stop loss and potential target zones at two different levels. If you want to target at this level, then you want to have reasonable risk reward ratio. So this risk reward ratio is 1.42. And this one, which is what I'm targeting, I'm actually targeting for longer terms. I'm hoping that in the next few weeks, it'll go all the way up to here based on Fibonacci levels. So for that, you need to have adequate stop loss. So that's why I'm going with this particular stop loss below the 50 moving average and hoping for much bigger move. And that would have worked really well because with this tight stop loss, I think it hit on Friday, but then it recovered. If you have stop loss, which you must in all the trades, it's a safety mechanism. So if it hits, it hits. It's an insurance policy. Don't worry about that it hit a stop loss and you having booked some losses in this. It is there for good safety measure. So it is an insurance. You don't worry about having insurances. If it hits and recovers, then by all means, if you're still sold on this story and have conviction in the stock, then buy it back. You don't have to worry about having booked losses. Don't feel that your ego is bruised and you have to stay away from it, right? If it hits and come back, and if it confirms a new buy signal, you can always get back to this stock. So I have this stock still, and you can also continue to have it if you hold it, looking for this pattern and have a stop loss at this below this previous low. I have this in my stock as well. So this continues to be in our next watch list. The next one is TDoc, the telemedicine company, acting really well. Went up, came back to T-line for support, went up, came back to T-line for support, and it's trying to go up again. And that means there are lots of buyers coming in at the T-line level. So so it acts really well. It gave us a real good return for last few weeks. We have been monitoring this for the last 2-3 weeks now from here onwards. So you can see from when it broke above this 215 level, and now it's nearly 300. So it's gone up really well and never closed below T-line. So you could see how using T-line as a potential stop loss, close below T-line as a potential stop loss, would have still kept you in this trade, and you would be sitting in a nice profit. Halo, so it broke above this yellow box, but it's kind of still consolidating sideways a little bit. It hasn't broken down at all. It's setting a base on base and gradually moving up. Nice setup. If you're in it, you may want to continue and adjust the stop loss a little bit tighter, or if you find a good setup as I have, and you can choose to move on to another trade if you like. But this is how it performs. It broke above but moved sideways last week. The next one is NEO. So it is also consolidating. It had quite a monstrous move lately, in the last many months, and it is consolidating this way. So if you put a horizontal line there, and another horizontal line here, so it's kind of following that horizontal lines at the moment. So it's a good setup still. If you are in it and I have a positive view about this stock, which is in hot sector now, electric vehicle, you can continue to hold. Or if you want to trade in and out of it, you can do so as well. So if you look at the broader picture, it's going sideways above this breakout previous resistance level. So it's still a good setup. And I'm expecting once it kind of consolidated by moving sideways a little bit, it will move up again. That's what I'm hoping for. The pink zone still remains to be a stop loss zone, and you can continue to use that because the chart pattern still confirms that. The next chart is TGT target. Still about T-line. It tried to break out, came back to T-line for support and gave a doji. Still about the T-line, so it's still acting very well. It's a big company, low risk in that sense. So it's a very good stock for medium to long-term hold as well. I didn't include this in my next week watch list, but the stock hasn't broken down at all. If you're in it, you can continue to hold, I would think, because that's what I would do if I'm in that position. Unless I have a much more attractive stock and I'm in need of cash, then I will be moving my money to another stock. TXG. This is a wonderful stock. As you can see, we introduced the stock somewhere at 188 last week. Where was it? Here, at the end of this blue candle. And then it gave a bearish engulfing candle the following day, but it found support at T-line. And then on Thursday and Friday, it acted really well and broke above that previous resistance. What you might be wanting to be aware of is there's earnings coming up on Wednesday. So you'd want to analyze whether you want to have an exposure during the earnings time, because earnings can lead to gap up or sometimes gap down as well. If you have bought somewhere here at the open of Monday last week, when you had the watch list, you'd be sitting in a good profit of nearly 6% or 7%. So it might move a little bit. And if you have a good profit cushion, you can try see what happens at the earnings. But if you don't want to take the risk of earnings move, then you can book some partial profits or get out of the position before the earnings release on Wednesday. But the chart pattern is great. It is in genomic sector, which is one of my favorite sectors at the moment. So I'm continuing to hold and watch this stock in my portfolio as well. Peloton, again, it's going sideways, if you can see that. So it had a great move. And if you look at the bigger picture, it's going sideways since the gap open on the 22nd of December. But it hasn't broken below the 50 EMA at all. So 50 EMA is acting as support, and it's trying to break above that kind of descending trend line. It's kind of hitting that line now. We'd want to see how it goes, but it had been a positive trade in the last week. I have this in my long-term portfolio for a while now, taken some partial profits, but I still have nearly 50% or more of the allocation on the stock still active. Okay, so it's a great stock to continue. And this is also an active recommendation in the watch list ideas for next week. CRSP. So CRSP, we were following this 50 EMA, and I was taking a trade, and I got stopped off by this move on Friday below the yellow box, which is where I put the stop loss. If you follow the CT50 strategy, it never closed above T-line, so you wouldn't have opened the trade. But I wanted to have an aggressive entry. It didn't work out, but I'm still watching for my other portfolio to see if it acts well and comes above the T-line and breaks above this zone again, then I might be interested. As I mentioned in the PowerPoint slides, it's a great stock, great sector. One of the sector I'm watching. So it came down and closed my trade, but it's trying to come up again. If it comes up and sets up another good entry point, I will get back in. But it went down a little bit last week. It didn't work out in the 1 week period. Zoom continuing to act well. It just broke above this small resistance here and working its way gradually towards the next resistance zone around 480 level. So this is a good story stock. We are using Zoom. It's likely to perform really well, and I have stocks in this as well. But we are moving a little bit away from this for the next week's watch list. But it's continuing to act well, and it's still a viable trade if you want to enter into this one. Sedge. So we showed this yellow box last week. It broke above immediately the following day very nicely. If you had been watching this watch list ideas, then you would know to enter right at the breakout of the yellow box, and you'd have been sitting up in a nice profit in 1 week. So this is one of the top. This is the top performer in the last week watch list, returning over 7% in just 1 week, and it's been a great stock in my long-term portfolio. So as you can see, it's come a long way, and it's on the solar sector, which is where the current trend is. So ride the trend. RKT. So there are 3 different levels I've highlighted in my watch list last week. And as you can see, the bigger ones are medium to longer term focus, and this shorter one for shorter term focus. So I have a longer term focus on this one. So I bought in my long-term portfolio. I'm still holding it. But if you're bought in at the with the short stop losses, you may have hit the stop loss on this one, right? Right over there. But have it on your watch list. It's not giving a good setup now, but if it comes back, it might be a good one to re-enter. But I have a position already. I'm keeping a loose stop loss on this for a little bit of longer term play as well. So this is how the last week watch list has performed. Let's go quickly to next week's watch list. So we saw Teladoc, Peloton, TXG, NEO, and DCBO already. So I will skip them and let's move on to the other stocks. Crowd, CRWD. So this is what did I say? This is security, the cloud security company. Everyone working from home, and this company's product is high in demand. So it's breaking above these resistance levels. Here as well. Okay, so it's come a long way, and then it moved sideways, digested these gains, and now it's breaking out on accumulating volume. So it's a good one, and I have some high hopes for this stocks to continue its uptrend. NEO, again, it had quite a lot of big moves in the last 6 months or so, and it's moving sideways, setting up really nicely. Not giving up when it comes down. It's not giving up much of the gains at all. The lower days, the bearish days volumes are low as well, and it's gone up above the T line. So this is one for watching, and it's setting up really nicely. If you put some lines here, right? So let's talk about the descending trend line. That's the small resistance here. If it also breaks above that, that gives you added confirmation. If you're an aggressive trader, this is a reasonable entry with a stop loss below this zone. So you could place some stop loss somewhere here, that level. All right. NEO, this is NEU, N-I-U. The next one is MPWR, semiconductor business. So many semiconductor stocks are acting really well. This one seems to be not too extended, whereas others seems to have been a bit extended. So this resistance level has been retested, found support at 50 EMA, and then moving up now. There's a small resistance there. And if you want to put a descending trend line, it's going to broke about that trend line, found support again when it retested support again at T line and trying to go up. And the volume was really high on this one. The price hasn't moved up that much, but great sector, great company, reasonable chart action. I'm expecting it to move a bit up, resume its uptrend. If it breaks about this resistance, that's the added confirmation. LAZR. So a few months ago, I was expecting it to break above and then go above this kind of descending trend line. It didn't work out like that, but it continued its sideways action because it kind of had a monster move from $10 to nearly $50 in a short span of time. So it's taking time to settle down, quieten down a little bit, consolidate the gains. And now it seems to be moving up. There are lots of different lines here. There are VWAPs that institutional investors tend to follow. Just ignore them for the time being. Okay, so I'll take this one. That's the old one. So if you see here, there's the wedge pattern, and it's trying to break above that wedge pattern with new volumes coming in. So this is a good chart setup. So I think I covered all of them very briefly. TDOC, Peloton, CRWD, NIU, NIO, DXG, DCBO, MPWR, and last one, laser. Okay, so hope it made sense to you. Hope you are convinced by these charts as well. There are real nice setups on them. Hope you are able to kind of find some good setups that fits your trade plan as well. Have a trade plan, have a stop loss, and stick to that plan in a disciplined way. And I'm sure you will start to find your own rhythm of it. Okay, so this is just a brief snapshot of how our watch list and focus list have performed since the inception of this service. It's been doing really well, apart from mild couple of underperformance weeks, but we haven't lost on any of the those kind of portfolio stocks of all of them to put together on any of those weeks or any of the lists, which has been great. I'm really grateful that it has worked really well. That just shows how the stock selection and the market has been recently. So I hope it gives you enough confidence in the system for you to take your first steps and benefit from this. Happy learning and successful investing. I see you later. All the best. Bye.